Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? Welcome back to the channel, lads and ladies, and welcome to some M18 Black Cat gameplay. This is gonna be a lot of fun, and of course, after this, we'll get into 3 replays, so looking forward to that. I picked out something nice for you all today. I've been playing my 5.7 USA lineup, and for anyone that was afraid the M18 cannot perform at a 5.7 battle rating, especially against things like down-tiered Panthers and Tigers and Tiger 2Ps, Tiger 2Hs, and up tier in the M18 can be a little bit less of an opportunity. But if you get yourself in the right position, and you will see exactly that happen a few times during this match, then things just kind of fall into your lap. Basically, we're going to try to get into a forward position early in the match, set ourselves up behind some hard cover here in the village, and listen and pay attention to what's going on around us and reap the benefits. You can pull that off in any Speedy Boy vehicle, and the 76 on the M18 has the one-shot kill capability for side and rear shots that make that strategy work out so nicely. Add to that a fairly snappy reload rate, good gun handling when you're not on the move, and that fantastic mobility, and you have a platform that can perform even in an up tier, even with a 5.7 battle rating against the very competitive German heavy armor that it faces, and a cheeky move here. And I mean, you gotta admit, that was a pretty ballsy move, but it looks like he'd already taken some damage. And just a little teasing there in the chat, I remember when I bought the KV, it was called the KV-1B back in the day, but I think it's called the KV-1C756R, if I'm not mistaken, and another one gritting his teeth as his 75mm round was not enough to hull break us, and we managed to get some revenge instead of dying ingloriously at the beginning of the match. I talked about getting into a good position and playing sneaky, and that's what's going to happen after those first 2 kills. Those first 2 were just pure luck, fueled by my desire to get spawn points early and maybe fly some casts. I had a special task today to get assists, and I had a daily task to get victories while placing within a certain bracket in my team. And I tend to place fairly high in these matches when I'm not doing really terribly, because I have a very broad lineup of vehicles to draw from. I know my way around a CAS aircraft, and I can make things happen fairly quickly. We hit the one spot on the Tiger that we wouldn't be able to punch through, and we decide to go for a little cheeky repositioning. Again, the mobility of these vehicles, especially in an urban fight, really gives you options that you wouldn't have in a lot of other vehicles, and we mostly catch that Tiger by surprise. I think he was angling to avoid a shot through the smoke, and he completely was not prepared for us to pull the flank. We found a Panther just sitting around and decide to make an explosion out of it, and a Tiger presents himself just in time for us to get a side shot as well, and now we are just reaping the benefits of our positioning. Side shot, now let's go for the turret, and kaplowy. Look at the one-shot kills this 76 cannon gets you with its APHE round. Fantastic. You can shoot something just about anywhere in the crew compartment and get a one-shot kill. That means so much for a flanker like this, and we've racked up more than 6 kills already, I think. Here we go for a Panzer IV who seems completely out of his depth in this environment. All of these German vehicles really just can't reposition effectively against the M18 in those close quarters, so that was an extremely rapid 8 kills. And now, in honor of our armed liberation from the British, by our own hands no less, a little bit of demonstration of the power of tea that partially fueled the madness of the American Revolution and the half-hearted attempt by Britain to wrangle us back in. But we say nay, we say thee, a better government have we. Anyway, enjoy MetaDave as he brings out the tea leaf meta, bagging on these fools. And I'm not sure where his round went post-pen on that Panzer IV, but welcome to the War Thunder servers, lads and ladies. A hot topic lately, and cold comfort to those that were interested in World War Mode Episode 3. I was one such person, and I still am. I'm sure that World War Mode 3 will come back at some point, and I hope that the issues have been ironed out with War Thunder's servers by then, because they don't only affect World War Mode. It's been really bad for a while now, and I've been watching every destroyed vehicle get up and fly. I've seen ghost shells. I've seen things no man should see. But I'm starting to sound a little bit repetitive here, and if you want to hear me rant about War Thunder servers, you have the previous video for that. Not the one of my girls dancing, but the War Thunder video. I do love posting vids on my girls up here, and already MetaDave is giving the M18 a run for its money with a blisteringly fast 6 kills at a gentleman's walking pace in the Churchill Mark III. A heavy tank that doesn't fit the heavy tank meta, but digs out a place for itself with its somewhat less reliable armor, excepting the side armor's pretty good. The frontal hull armor is good when you angle it, but the turret is not nearly thick enough to reliably absorb or deflect rounds. It's a big flat spot, and even the ubiquitous Sherman can punch through at close range, where MetaDave finds himself today. And yet, the rapid-fire cannon launches harshly worded armor-piercing messages toward the enemy, and the commander of the tank hopes, even prays, that the enemy will not hit his various weak spots. Angling the turret does help, but not at all if it's flat on toward the enemy, as he gets one shot there after picking up a nice 7 kills. Moving now to whatever the hell abomination of a ground attacker this thing is. The Brits had some weird ideas about what made a good fighter, and it's hard to argue with 4 Hispanos outside of War Thunder. Of course, the only thing that sparkles more than our freedom fireworks is Hispano cannons in the game of War Thunder. But IRL 420 is pretty strong stuff to blaze toward enemy tanks. But this thing just seems like it's all wing and drag, and even though that helpful enemy fighter reduced some drag for our guy MetaDave, it probably wasn't appreciated that it also caused him to slam into the ground. But picking up a tank kill and an air kill at the same time. Also, screw the War Thunder replay system, it's buggy as hell, and yet I do appreciate what it has to offer, so it's a mixed bag. But like I said, not often do you get an air kill and a ground kill at the same time, but surprise, that enemy looked like a, what's it called, a J-18 or something like that. Sweetie boy, it looks like almost like a Hellcat or maybe a miniature P-47, that kind of idea. Radial engine, monocoque design, excuse you, and some nice guns in the wings to flesh things out. Overall, it falls short of what comes later in the Swedish line, but I remember with fondness my experiences in that little fighter. Not a bad plane, and well, that should have been a death for sure. You can see how far away that bomb was when it exploded, and I'm fairly certain that was at least 500 kilos. That's pretty ridiculous that MetaDave is alive, but I guess the moist of the teabag protect the crew, and MetaDave's boys live on to fight another day. One of them might have caught some shrapnel, I'm not quite sure. It's kind of tricky to see the schematic in the bottom left. That's another thing that I enjoy about War Thunder lately. I say lately, I'm an old man, okay? The changes that happened months ago seem recent to me, but I think this one was actually fairly recent, where they consolidated a lot of the UI for ground forces in the bottom left. I like that, clean things up a bit, and War Thunder could definitely do with some UI consolidation and retouching. Excuse you. And nowhere is that more apparent, by the way, than in replay mode, where you see all of this puke on the screen that's meant to give you information and that can't be hidden unless you want to hide the entire UI. So, Gaijin, please, I don't need to see all the camera controls. Let me close that tab or minimize it the way I can with the side tabs. Por favor. Also, if you could stop showing tutorial messages like refilling of the ammo rack and increase speed to avoid a crash kind of stuff in the game in general and in replays specifically, that would be just peachy. Oh, excuse me. Gotta realign my anatomy here. Oh, okay. Where are we at? MetaDave now with some nice positioning against a couple of Germans and looking for more targets now. Up to 9 ground kills and 2 air kills in a fantastically violent expression of British ferocity. Bite and hold, bite and hold. That Panzer IV is bluffing as his crew goes down with still a broken breach inside the tank. Another bomb comes in and explodes harmlessly in the distance. What's this? Some sort of sweetie boy, and he's RUNNOFT the way they seem to do. Hard to blame him. Looks like he lost a gunner, maybe a loader as well, and took a bit of damage to either the cannon barrel or the breech, I'm not quite sure there. Probably not enough to reliably prevent him from firing the gun, but at least enough to encourage him to reposition, especially under fire from an M10. Achilles, the American Wolverine, a reasonably reliable sort of early cousin to the M18 that has better mobility than many other vehicles with such a large gun, a fully rotating turret that rotates as slow as American domestic policy, and we need prison reform so badly. Like, we talk about police reform, but I think it really comes down to accountability. We have good laws, we need to enforce them, but our laws for imprisonment are actually horribly manipulative and intended to create an artificial slave class. They're trying to build a prison for you and me to live in. But that's old news. It's just something that's never been addressed. When can we march about that? I'll sign right up. Anyway, did I get political? Better not post this on live.warthunder. Oh wait, the mods never watch the videos anyway. As long as I don't put anything in the title. Anyway, I better get neutral because it's Flight Sim Test in the Swedish lineup. Yes, the broken, overpowered one that remains so to this day. The SAV. This, the less expensive way to get into Swedish ground forces back in the day. And how did that little guy survive 2 rounds from the SAV? I'm not quite sure. I think Overpen Kachiga has a little bit to do with that. T-34, no more. Now has a new front door. And what I was saying is that this was the cheaper way, the way to save, see what I did there, on getting into the Swedish closed beta testing back in the day. Early access to Sweetie Boy ground forces, if you will. And I bought the S-Tank instead. I knew it would be a barrel of stank, and it was. But it ended up being one of my favorite vehicles just because of how much differently you have to play the game to do well in it. And when you do, even at 7.7, it's not a bad tank. Tank destroyer, let's be honest here. It's more like a self-propelled gun. But I digress. It's SAV time, boys! And, of course, for those of you that don't know, I've actually seen a little bit less of these lately. Maybe because I'm not playing around those battle ratings anymore. But this also, it has a garbage lineup to back it up for the Swedes. But this Swedish tank destroyer has a, what is it, around 90 mils of penetration on its APHE round, autoloader with a, what is it, a 0.8 second reload rate. So that's pretty ridiculous. Of course, it just has a 6-shooter before that's no longer available, and you have to reload the slow way. Usually means that you're gonna die if you have enemies around you, but a quick 8 kills, excuse me, later on, picking up an aircraft kill in the, what is this, A21, I think, something like that. Again, vehicle designations, I'm not so good at them on a normal day, and with the Swedes it's even worse because it all seems like gibberish to me. I'm not sure what a Kranvagn is, and I'm not sure I want to find out. But getting another air kill on, what was that, a year or 2? Something like that. One of the more exotic Soviet medium bombers, if you will, and yet the aforementioned fantastic stopping power of, ooh, I like that Northern Wind decal, by the way. In fact, the flames look pretty cool as well. You got good taste, FST, you got good taste. But the guns on this fighter, I almost called it a jet because there is a jet version, but it's got a inflation, it's got a hashtag inflation, a little booty on it, abdomen, if you will, that shoots out that hot air, instead of the pusher prop you find in the rear of this little fella. But the handling of the aircraft is just excellent. I was talking about the guns, so they rip and tear until it is done. They shred, and they can even go through the roof armor of a good number of the ground targets you'll face in the game from extreme top-down angles at close range, the way that American 50 cals do, even with a little bit more reliability, if not mass of fire the way you get with American aircraft. The ammo count's not terrible either, and that means that this versatile little attacker slash fighter is a very useful tool in the lineup of somebody that wants to run the premium overpowered SAV. I think it's actually at 4.0 now, so that also expands your options for ground and air reinforcements for your lineup. And even so, the aircraft line for the Swedes is fantastic at this tier, and that comes in for you very nicely where perhaps the other ground vehicles might fall behind, as everything falls behind the SAV in performance. And speaking of performance, are you enjoying my fantastic editing skills for this video as we watched FST go all the way back to the base to repair, refuel, and rearm and reassess the situation? He's had a very fast-paced opening to his match, and now he has plenty of spawn points to play around with if he has other vehicles he feels like playing in this battle. And yet, if he's anything like me, and he might be with a name like flightsimtest, he might be more interested in flying Cass and kicking ass than he is in playing around in the mud. But that's all speculation. Dropping off the bomb, maybe because he sees enemy aircraft at this resolution, it's hard to tell. And yeah, he spotted the dot, and now he's set himself up on potentially an intercept course. One of the few drawbacks to these early Swedish aircraft is that they don't have the best climb rate, and that's actually kind of surprising, because in all other ways they seem to perform very well. They're stable, they retain and recover energy fairly well, they accelerate in a straight line fairly well, they're somewhat tanky, and they still seem to be a reasonably lightweight aircraft as well. There's really not a lot of wasted space on these, and they don't have the secondary weapon options that you find in the American line, or the ammunition count for that matter, but nobody carries as much ammo in the wings as the Americans. We've got lots of threats, okay? And we're gonna deal with all of them. But a quick head-on against that enemy fighter that had far more energy than our guy was probably a good decision, and even though it didn't turn out so well for FST, he's on the friendly side of the line, so I'm sure when his slightly sleepy pilot bails out of the aircraft after a brisk flecking with that delightfully chill water there in the bay, he'll no doubt be recovered and brought back to IKEA for meatballs and a mission briefing. In fact, he's back in the air already. What's this thing called? J18? Something like that. B18? I'm sorry. Again, I'm bad with the designations, but one of the things that I loved about this series of frontline bombers when I was playing them is that you have some really fun rockets, and you have a number of them mounted under the central fuselage of the aircraft, which really helps with aiming. You don't have that wide dispersion the way you get with the wing mounts. Kind of curious why. Oh, I'm sure there's good reasons why their aircraft didn't mount as many rockets under the fuselage. Maybe the fact that it's kind of a hazardous place to mount rockets, but I don't know. Just seems like a fun time to me. I did just get to, oh no, that's not a fun time. Suddenly those rockets become a hazard when you slam them into a cliff face. And I gotta say, FST is not the only guy to do that. In fact, I think I saw another friendly aircraft slam into the ground there. But it's all part of the process, I tell you. As mentioned earlier, FST, because of his early game shenanigans in the SAV, has plenty of spawn points to play with, enough to drop around 1100 spawn points to respawn in the fighter. So we'll hope for the best, and oh, suddenly we're out of time. Solid use of a backup, or maybe it's a different model of airframe, but I'm not quite sure it is. I don't know. Let's move on to G Squad's very own Torstein 32. Cheers to all of the squadrons that have been participating in World War mode as much as they can. We're all in this together apart. Am I the only guy that hates the propaganda, the COVID-19 propaganda, the BLM propaganda? The issues are real. The people going through things are real. The corporations shilling out their messages and putting up these banners of, unite together and stand against they don't give a flip. And it just makes me mad because I know they don't care. Anyway, something happened to Yuri. He took a little nappy nap, but it's okay. He got better. And going on to kill number 5 already. Did I skip something? I might have done some bad editing in this video. Shocker, I know. Why are you guys still here? I'm sorry. My life is exceedingly busy these days, but I have no less things to share with you all. So I have sacrificed editing quality at the hands of just being able to share life with you guys, which is the whole reason that I do all this stuff. Anyway, Torstein is just tearing through these fools, and machine guns come in. Yuri's in danger again, and yet a reprieve, and bouncing a shot off of his mighty abdominal muscles, and yet he was just too swole. The truck tips over, along with our cameraman. I assure you, that potato truck did not die. He just finished his delivery route elsewhere. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, there's a link in the description to my Discord, which is the best place to get a hold of me with replays or anything else. Come by, a mod will greet you, inform you to read the rules, and unlock the rest of the server for you as soon as they get an answer from you. I know it's kind of inconvenient to have that sort of gatekeeping in the Discord, but I trust my mods. There's some pretty experienced guys there, and they've always had my back and made life easy for me. And like I said, I'm very busy these days. I'm just thinking recently of how helpful they've been. It's really great having them around. So you guys in the Banhammer squad, you know who you are. I really appreciate you guys, and all the rest of you. I'll see you around. Bye bye.